Hi there guys, Vino here and welcome to this Vino Plunk production, and I think it's time for a cuppa. That is a damn fine cup of coffee. How are you guys doing? Hopefully you're doing really well. I'm doing pretty damn fantastic. So this video, as well as being a TFAC, is also going to be a test of not only my new SD card, which hopefully, if the timing is correct, you would have seen in an OTGV on the go video that I uploaded 2 days ago, a day ago, whatever it was. So hopefully you've seen the SD card that I purchased, but it's also a test of my camera settings because I had to, the last couple of weeks or last week or so, I've been playing around with my camera settings to try and get a micro SD card working with my camera. So hopefully I put the settings back to how they should be, and this looks as good as my old videos ever did, and I'm happy to have my main camera back once again. So it's ironic that I actually do have a Zelda mug with me, because I am going to be speaking a little bit today about the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. I will have a more dedicated video at some point on the matter, but I'm just going to run through some things in this video, including that. I will say there is going to be a bit of overlap between this and some OTGVs. I do have an OTGV on the go as it stands at the moment. Some of it's still on my phone waiting to be put together, some other footage, so there may be some overlap between this and those videos. So as I was saying, guys, there'll be some overlap in this video and that and those videos, so bear with me if there is some overlap. So it is currently Saturday the 5th of April 2025, and it's currently at 2 PM, just to give you context of when I'm recording this video. So first and foremost, let's get into my fittings on the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. So depending on when you're going to be seeing this video versus other videos, or if you've seen other videos, I'm just going to get out of the way with I'm buying a Switch 2. So the Switch 2 is going to be releasing on June the 5th of this year, and I'm going to be buying one. So I'm going to be messaging a couple of people that have already put in some stuff by for me. I'm going to tell them to keep the deposit that I've already paid them. And one of those occasions is actually quite a significant deposit, so I'll be telling them to keep their deposit, and I'll be using my money next month and then into June in order to put together to buy a Switch 2. Also, I'll probably be selling my Switch OLED in order to help pay for the Switch 2. So my opinions on the Switch 2 Direct itself was pretty good, to be honest, and I'd already made the decision that I was going to buy a Switch 2 even before I saw the price or knew the price myself of a Switch 2. I didn't realise that when the Switch 2 website launched later that day, the prices were just there for everybody to see, and some retailers here in the UK, Game, EB, Smith's Toys, Curry's have all released the price of the Switch 2. So, in the UK, the Switch 2 is £380 at a base price, and then £420 if you want to buy it with, I think it's 420 or 430, if you want to buy it with Mario Kart World. You are getting a saving on Mario Kart World, because Mario Kart World is potentially an $80 or £70 game. We'll get on more on that a little bit later, but I'd already decided that I was going to buy a Switch 2 even before I knew what the price was, because I knew with some recent bills being paid off and that kind of stuff that if I saved over a couple of months I could get the Switch 2. So that was never any doubt in my mind. So the Switch 2 Direct itself and what Nintendo showed off, from Mario Kart World to Donkey Kong to the upgrades of various other games such as Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. If you don't know, they are releasing upgraded versions of those games that were on the Switch 1 for the Switch 2, but there is a cost to that purchase to be able to gain entry to those. So there's an upgrade cost. So Switch 2 Direct was fun. Now we're going to get into the zeitgeist of what's happened after the Switch. So nearly everybody and their mother is shouting as loud as they can at Nintendo and other people, basically saying that the Switch 2 is a complete rip-off. So first of all, the Switch is £380 in the UK. That is £100 more expensive than the Switch 1. For me, I actually expected the Switch 2 to be more money than that, to be honest. You have to realise we are now, the Switch 1 came out in 2017. We're now 8 years removed from the Switch 1. Obviously, the Switch OLED came out, and the Switch OLED came out at £310 here in the UK. The standard Switch was still £280, and then they released the Switch Lite at £200. So there was a good range of options with those three of the original Switches ecosystem, the family of Switches, if you will, that Nintendo will always do. So a £100 upgrade for a Switch 2 to me is a bit of a no-brainer, especially considering I already own a Switch. So I can use the Switch, sell my Switch to get some money to go towards the Switch 2. So that essentially makes the Switch 2 the same price as a Switch 1 for me, when you think of it that way. We then get into the price of the games. So they are $80 a piece. I'm guessing that's going to be about £70 a piece. To me, that's no real surprise, to be honest. Games are on the increase, unfortunately, with some tariffs that recently been imposed on the world by a certain world leader. Not going to give them the decency to say their name, to be honest, in this video. But anyway, prices are always going to increase. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And I think, personally, it is extremely delusional to not expect prices to increase. There's so many people. So since the Nintendo Direct, Nintendo have done 2 Nintendo Treehouse streams showing off the games. Almost constantly throughout of those streams, there's people just, sorry about that, guys. So there are people just spamming into the chat, lower the price, lower the price, lower the price, lower the price. And it detracted. To be honest, I was watching one of the streams on my PlayStation 5, and you have the option of having the chat on there. I, after 5 minutes, turned off the stream, to be honest. When I was watching on my TV, natively, not using my PS5, it's a bit harder to bring the chat up. For me, that was glorious. Not seeing the chat was glorious. I went to the toilet at one point and checked in on one of the streams, and of course you've got the video here and the chat at the bottom on your phone. Again, completely detracted for me. The thing with it is, Nintendo are a juggernaut in the gaming business, and they're a juggernaut of a business. They are not going to lower the price of the Switch 2 or the games, to be honest. Moving on to the next thing, and that's the upgrade of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom mainly. People are complaining about the upgrade cost. To me, it's standard. I've said this in one of my OTGVs, that I have Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, what else? Last of Us Part 2, Days Gone, later this year, all require upgrade cost. And it's about £10-15. I think Death Stranding cost me about £5 to upgrade that. And that gave you a lot more content for your £5. Yes, Ghost of Tsushima was £15, I think, for its upgrade, but it gave you a whole new island. The director's cut, as they called it, gave you a whole new island to explore. Stuff like that. So yes, you could argue that they are giving you some extra, but I don't think I'm trying to think. Oh no, it did. The Last of Us 2 PS5 edition did give you the roguelike, or roguelite, whatever you can call it, mode that I actually quite enjoy quite a bit. But having said that, it's not bizarre to me. It's not strange to me that Nintendo are charging potentially £10 for an upgrade of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. And yes, before we go any further, I am going to be buying or upgrading to Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition. I'm probably going to be buying the expansion pack, because if you have the expansion pack, you can have Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition for free, including the price of the expansion pack. Plus, I want to be able to have access to the GameCube Classics catalogue, because GameCube is one of those consoles that, to be honest, has eluded me somewhat, even though I've owned several of them over the years. Enough. Nothing to me with the Switch was the Switch 2, was surprising, and I'm baffled as to why so many people are shocked or even appalled at the direction the Switch 2 is going. In fact, if anything, it was either expected for me, if not a little bit under what I expected in terms of price. I expected the Switch to cost £450, to be honest. The fact that some people have mentioned it's on par, if not better than a Steam Deck, with some of its features and what have you. To me, the 380 base price point, and then you factor in the bundle price for Mario Kart World, it's a steal. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be playing Mario Kart World, playing the Switch 2 versions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm going to be loving life. And yes, this may shock people, I'm going to be buying that welcome tour, whatever it's thing, for $10, whatever it's going to cost. I'm going to be buying that. Some people have said that should be pack-in, that should be, that shouldn't cost. At the end of the day, it is what it is. You're not going to change Nintendo's mind on this, to be completely honest. So that's my views on that. We're now going to move on to something else. I have a fuck ton of graphic novels potentially arriving tomorrow. So some of you will have watched my OTGV, in which I called Graphic Switching is Novel. I do believe that's what I called it. And in that, I spoke about the fact that, of course, I have a load of graphic novels being dropped off tomorrow. However, the seller has hit me with a bit of a curveball. So they called me this morning, because I gave them my phone number 2 days ago. They called me this morning. They sent a load of pictures across. There's some mould on some of the books. Now, most of the books, if not all of them, are still sealed in their shrink wrap. So the mould is pretty easy to wipe off, and the seller has said that if you are going to keep them for yourself, they're still perfectly readable. There's not an issue with them. However, if you're going to sell them on, there might be a bit of an issue with that. I intend to keep them. I don't intend to sell them on, at least anytime soon. So I will be keeping them for myself. The seller has agreed to drop the price in order to compensate for the mould damage. I am still strongly considering taking the books off of them, because I actually did my finances. Yes, I got a Google Sheets spreadsheet on the go, and actually a couple of bills were a bit lower than I expected this month, and actually I'm a bit better off than I expected. So including the discount that he's willing to give me on the books, on the graphic novels, I'll actually be in a pretty reasonable state this month. So I'll probably end up still going for it and just gently wipe off the mould. Some of it has gotten in, because some of the plastic has ripped or torn or what have you, so it has gotten into the books themselves, but I think it is just easily wipeable. So hopefully all is good on that front. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Me and my father are going out for a meal tonight. That's going to be really nice. Really looking forward to that. But yeah, just going to be a relaxing, nice weekend. Get some graphic novels tomorrow. Go for a meal tonight. Yeah, things are good. Things are good at the moment. Got my main camera back with the SD card and all that. And cheers for the coffee. But until next time, guys, please take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Ta-ra.